and some Super Bowl 51. This guy has covered some winners and some losers over the course of time. He now writes some columns out at Ravens.com, but he is a local author and columnist and one of my mentors from our days together at the Baltimore Sun. His new book comes out on the 4th of July. It's all about Iron Men. I think he's 30 years into covering Baltimore sports. John Eisenberg, we welcome him back. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at @BMoreEisenberg. And, of course, awaiting Ravens, combines and free agency and all that good stuff. But, John, the Sunday night makes you want to be a columnist, right? You had to rip up the lead and rewrite the whole thing. Boy, what a story on Sunday night. I mean, that's a Super Bowl for the ages right there.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, if you can, people in Baltimore, if you can sort of remove your distaste for the Patriots out of it, very hard for a lot of people to do. And, I understand that. So, it falls on deaf ears. But nonetheless, that was an amazing game, an amazing performance. And, 20 years from now, the Atlanta Falcons are going to be saying the same thing. How did that happen? How in the world did that happen? I have seen very few games which really have just sort of leave you slack-jawed. And how did that happen? But sorry.
You're a $25 million quarterback. You're 9 years in the league. We would hope that Joe Flacco wouldn't take a sack there. You would hope that Andy Dalton would, that any seasoned quarterback would not take a sack. And, I mean, for all the other things that went wrong, and it started to pile up, and even the strip sack, which was a no-no, and, I'll give a little bit of that to the running back, a little bit to the O-line, a little bit to a hell of a football play. But, when all you need to do is run the ball 2 times, take a knee, kick a 40-yard field goal, and have an 11-point lead with 2 minutes left to go, I mean, it's inexcusable. I mean, it really is inexcusable.
Yeah, it is. It's inexcusable, but really, that same unit had the team so far ahead that it shouldn't have mattered. I mean, yeah, all that's definitely true, and there was bad play calling and all this stuff, and it's going to be second guessed and all that. But listen, what happened in the fourth quarter is the defense couldn't stop them. The Falcons could not stop the Patriots, and over and over again. I mean, there was plenty of padding in that score for the Falcons to deal with a few missteps. I think, they should have been able to handle it. Yeah, they screwed up a few things at the end, but they were up 25 points with what? How many minutes left in the game? And 19 in the fourth quarter? I mean, that should be enough. What happened is the defense lost it. I mean, the Patriots just kept coming at them, even with all the advantages that the Patriots, that the Falcons gave them, all those sort of missteps. It took every single step. The Patriots couldn't do one thing wrong. They needed that crazy catch. They needed 2 long drives. They needed 2-point conversions. They needed a million things to go right. That was their only way to win, and it all went right.
Oh, they also won the coin flip, and they also got the ball first, and and then went down the field. They ran 99 plays, John. 99 plays.
That's the key stat in the game. 99 plays. The Falcons were never on the field. I mean, so they didn't really stop them very well. Yeah, everyone's mad at the coach and the play calling. The defense could not stop them. And, that's actually, a column I wrote at Ravens.com was, it makes me appreciate the goal line stand of the Ravens against the 49ers. That game was basically a replay of Super Bowl 47 with the Falcons in the role of the Ravens, except they didn't make the stop. The Ravens did. It was the same situation. The Ravens were going down. They had blown that lead, and, it was, 4 or 5 yards they needed. 4 downs. The 49ers were eating up yards, and it's really a miracle. It is a flippin' miracle that they didn't go in and win that game. And it's amazing the changes in the course of a franchise that can happen over just a couple of yards. The Ravens made the stop, the Falcons didn't. And believe me, they're going to be looked at differently in history.
Well, and I would also say the first thing I thought of, and I know Luke wrote about it at WNST.net, if you're a Ravens fan, literally the bus was pulling out of the stadium lot, and I'm always on the first bus. I don't go into the locker room and deal all that nonsense unless I have some specific working interest in doing that. After being there for 10 days, I'm just happy to get back to the hotel and get on an early flight. And I literally didn't get out of the parking lot, and I saw Falcons fans kind of in front of the bus, and I looked at them, and I'm like, I can't I can't. I mean, the process that as a Ravens fan or supporter, all you could think about was how that could have, should have, would have been us, right? I mean that how the Ravens got away with it, and the Falcons didn't get let off the hook.
They had, and my point is, it's just like, it's happening in real time, and you're dealing with it, and this is a bummer, blah blah blah. But it's years. I mean, you're gonna remember that. It will.
Well, look at what happened to the 49ers. I mean, they didn't run the ball, and look at where the trajectory. We're going to sit here in a minute, John, and feel sorry for ourselves, and woe is us, and Ozzy's got a rough off season. But look at what's happened to the 49ers since that ball sailed away from Jimmy Smith into the corner, and Jim Harbaugh went nuts. Look, they haven't sniffed anything, and they're so far away from sniffing it that it feels like they're not even in the league. They're 300-1 next year to win a Super Bowl.
That's why I felt bad for the Falcons. I mean, I like their team. I think that they had a great season. They were a really good team, excellent team. I enjoyed watching them play football. But and when the coach, is a Salisbury guy and all this stuff. It's great, but and they're talking after the game, very dignified. Tough game, and we're going to try to get back here next year. And it's the same, yada yada you always hear in the losing locker room. But the stat is 22 straight losing Super Bowl teams have not been back. 22 in a row. It just doesn't happen. I mean, you have an opportunity. If you're fortunate enough to have your opportunity, you better take advantage of it because it's fleeting. Certainly the Ravens know that since they've been in the Super Bowl. They've been in the playoffs one time. The stars seldom align for you. It's a competitive league. Free agency comes along. You lose your players. A coach moves on. Other teams are good. And so you lose your opportunity. But when it is there, and it does happen, when it is there, you got to grab it. And so the Ravens did. They're fortunate enough to grab it. The Falcons let it slip away, and believe me, it will haunt them for years.
He is John Eisenberg. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at @BeMoreEisenberg. His new book on Iron Men and Streaks come out on the 4th of July. We'll address that in a minute. As a writer of writings and a lover of prose, what can you write about Tom Brady after that one? Like, we sat around all last week, John, and talked about winning or losing and cheating and, all the other stuff that goes along with it. And we felt like Brady had pretty much already done it all, whether they had won or lost on Sunday. It only adds to, Peyton Manning rode off on an orange Bronco last year, and, John Elway rode off on his own. I don't know how the end of this Brady thing is going to work out, but the only thing he hadn't done is come back from 25 points in a Super Bowl, and now he's done that.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you, I'm not one for hyperbole and all that, but and he's won 5 Super Bowls. And I think he probably is the greatest quarterback of all time. I think that might be the defining game right there. I mean, it just gets no better. What you would write, and listen, everybody's sick of him, and I didn't really have a rooting interest in that whole Brady versus Goodell thing. I just turned the channel every time. I'm not it. Who am I supposed to be pulling for in that? Remind me again. But
the guy that makes $30 million a year, the guy that makes $30 million a year, that guy.
Yeah.
Or that
guy? I didn't care.
Right.
I didn't care about the whole trophy presentation. That's just not my thing. But, bringing that attitude about Brady into it, that was just amazing. And so, I think what you have to write is put aside, listen, if you like sports, if you're interested in sports, you will never see a better display of that. That was just poise under pressure. I don't care if you're talking about a pitcher in the 7th game of the World Series.
Yeah, it's like, here's something you've never done. Go do this. Go. Hey, that's what we're going to do. We're going to put you down 28-3 in the Super Bowl, and let's see what happens in the third quarter. Let's see you come out from that. Well, he did. It was like a Houdini act, right?
Houdini act, but it wasn't magic. I mean, it was for real. And what it was about 35 passes on target with people in his face. I mean, they were battering him during that game. The Falcons beat him up. Now, I'll say this, people who haven't been around Brady, if you've seen him up close, he's a big dude. People sort of aren't aware of that. He is a very big dude, and he can take a pounding. And so, he got hit a lot in that game. He got up. And, just to make like 30 throws in a row, I mean, it was just crazy. So yeah, there's plenty to write about. You got to just tip your hat at that point. Just as I said, I don't care what sport you're watching. You won't see more poise. You can't see a guy perform under pressure better than that.
You know, John, for the Ravens and their brass and the pitchforks being out and all the other stuff, you and I have not spoken since the Bisciotti press conference to even sort of process all that. You were a little busy that week, and I was running around, as I remember it, and talking about a million other things. You watch these teams play, and you say, well, the Patriots made a couple of errors against the Ravens in New England, and they almost paid for it. If it weren't for the breakdown on the back end with Weddle, maybe the Ravens beat the Patriots that day. And certainly you look at the Steelers and say, well, they were in over their heads 2 weeks ago. But, the Ravens, other than an arm of Antonio Brown, and Mosley takes a different angle, and, the Ravens are in the playoffs. So you can talk yourself into that. But, you've been at this a long time. We both were there in the parking lot when Glenn Denning brought the team in. We both seen Art Modell and David Modell now leave us, and 21 years later, I've never entered an off season feeling like the Ravens had more work they needed to do if they're going to be a team that's going to win a championship. If they're going to be a team that's going to beat a Patriots or beat a Falcons or beat a Packers or beat a Cowboys, even the Steelers, this feels like as big a hole as the Ravens have been in from a cap angle, from a draft angle, from a talent angle, from a free agency angle, from an aging and some question marks on Flacco now after a rough and tumble season for him. If the Ravens win 11 or 12 games next year, boy, Ozzie and John will have done a hell of a lot of work, and all their staffs.
Yeah, you can certainly make that argument. I would say this last year, coming into this past season, I thought they might have been farther away. They were 5-11 last season. The quarterback was injured, and that was pretty bad. I think coming off of that season, coming into this season, I think that was about as low as it's been. That was not a good performance last year. They earned that. It wasn't injuries. There was a lot of talk about injuries. It wasn't injuries. That was a bad football team last year. Went 5-11, and so they were a little bit better this year. They had some young players, and so maybe a little bit. I would say a little bit ahead this year than last year. All those points you make, though, are good. And yes, it is a long way. When you watch these teams play in the last, and really all the playoffs, I just noticed it over and over again. What are all these teams doing that the Ravens struggled to do this year? And that is move the football. And I don't mean, the Ravens move the chains, move the sticks okay this year. But, anybody who watched that offense could see, there was a lot of sputtering. There was a lot of sort of blackout period. And there was a lot of settling for field goals. And just no rhythm, not nearly enough of a rhythm. These other teams, these good teams that were playing late, they all had that. They're all moving the ball all the time. They're just threatening. It's threatening offense. And you just didn't see that enough from the Ravens. And so that's where, there's no question that needs to sort of evolve on the offensive side of the ball. And then on the defensive side of the ball, there's just a lot of questions. Zach Orr leaving, that was a big blow. That hurt him. Brandon Williams is a free agent, very, very key piece of the puzzle. And so...
and they're a real risk of losing him.
Absolutely.
There are teams out there with a lot of money, and we saw last year with Asemele and a number of others when you throw money around, and it's one of the reasons Alex Mack wound up in Atlanta. They had more money to throw around than anybody else did.
Yeah, I would put it at less than 50%, and I'm just estimating there.
Okay.
But, I think it's going to be hard to keep him for that very reason. There's a high market for those guys. It's just bad timing for the Ravens. So, they're going to have to give up some guys. I've seen it written and said, they got to get Brandon Williams. Well, no kidding. No kidding they have to get Brandon Williams. The question is, what are they willing to give up to get Brandon Williams? They can get him, but they're going to have to carve out room in that salary cap. And that means letting go of some expensive pieces, other pieces. You're going to have to, this is what the salary cap is. You have to say, okay, we're willing to give up Mike Wallace. Okay, we're willing to give up Elvis Dumervil. Are you willing to do that? I don't know where they stand on that, but, I would argue that they can do very little more to solidify their team than to bring that guy back, because that really was the greatest place of strength on the Ravens this past year was their interior run defense. That's where they were the best. And so I would say you start your team going forward from there if you can, and bringing him back is the key to the whole thing.
Well, and then you got all these other keys, whether it's Jimmy Smith, whether it's Terrell Suggs getting older. Certainly the wideout position is sitting out there. What's going to happen to the tight end position where they've drafted so much? Man. I mean, right tackle's an issue with Wagner at this point. They really don't know who's going to run the football. I mean, there's not much I know about this team, right? They're going to play in September. We're going over to London. We got a big road trip and all that. I don't know who's going to be on the field for the team, quite frankly, other than a handful of guys, quite frankly.
Well, it could be an interesting year off season because there could be some names that go.
I'm not convinced Suda's going to be back, right? I mean, I'm not convinced Dennis Pitt is going to be back, although I think they would like that. Certainly Wagner, Williams, we got down the line, Doomerville. We know Zach Orr's not coming back. It's messy right now. There's a lot of uncertainty in this offseason, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and this is where you put it in the hands of the front office. This is what they've done. They have a lot on their plate, I think the nice news for them, they've had a lot of draft picks that haven't worked out the last few years. They had a pretty nice draft last year, and they would need another one like that. I mean, they got 2/5 of an offensive line, Alex Lewis and Ronnie Stanley. That's pretty nice. They got, I think Tavon Young is a slot corner, but that's a nice find in the 4th round. I like the running back, Kent Dixon. And, I'm not convinced that they don't have decent running backs that can do a lot. So they got Kent
You think
Dixon.
It's the line. You think fix the line and these guys will be okay.
I think, I mean, I've heard some talk, they want an explosive guy. I get that. Okay, they didn't have a lot of explosive plays. Fix the line. Let's see what happens there because I think those guys are pretty good. They ran hard. I don't think that was a problem. I don't think the running game was a problem. I don't think the running backs were a problem.
Perryman is going to, be the big question mark, I think, here to say, can he be a home run hitter? Can he be a guy that catches 70, 80 passes? Can he be a difference maker within the framework of this offense? And, I know Flacco's going to put the extra hours in, but this is really an off season for Flacco and Perryman to figure this out because as a first-round draft pick, he can't be another Travis Taylor or Mark Clayton at this point.
He just can't be. Yeah, it's a huge offseason for him. I mean, it's a huge period for him. There's no doubt. I mean, when you take him in the first round, you're saying you're going to be our guy, okay? And he got off to a slow start, and he had those injuries. He was healthy last year, and you see the flashes of why they took him. I mean, unbelievable speed and athleticism. Just huge speed, size, and strength. You just can't coach that, and so he's amazing. But you also saw why there were doubts about it. The drops, I think he's a little afraid of contact at times. So it's very much a question mark, and it's just a huge pressure. I mean, there's no doubt that, they need playmakers. They need that explosiveness I was talking about before on offense. And there's your guy. There's your first-round draft pick, so it's got to be him. And, if it isn't, certainly the Ravens can't wait for him to develop. They got to, as they did this past year, get some other playmakers. But there's no question that it's on him. They need him to be the guy.
At least they have a kicker, right, John?
Well, they certainly do. That they have. He's the most interesting, marketable, probably the best, just about the best player on the team. And, yeah, he's really good. And, look, he was perfect. He had a perfect season. So you can't do any better than he did, and it is that is fun to watch.
John Eisenberg joining us here, longtime columnist and local author. You can follow his journey at Be More Eisenberg out on Twitter as well as at Ravens.com. And, of course, the Combine coming up in 3 weeks. We're getting out on the draft, getting out on free agency. John will be writing and talking a lot about that. But you got a book coming out here, and it's on the baseball side of streaks, correct?
That is correct. Yes, it's actually I haven't had a book out since 2012. It's been a while, and I'm excited to have one coming out. It's called The Streak. And it will be out on July 4th, and it is not just about Cal Ripken. It's about Lou Gehrig, Cal Ripken. It's really about the whole concept of the consecutive game streak, where it came from. It's really about the record. It's about the record because I wrote about it because it just struck me as how many records in sports, the vast majority of them, you break them and everybody cheers for you and applauds. Certainly true in baseball. But in baseball, if you set the consecutive game record, everybody cheered for Cal and all that, and Gehrig as well. They're famous. But yet there's always this undercurrent of people saying, well, why did you do that? And does it matter? And who cares? And, here we are 20 years later, and that is still sounding. and it's just a record that I think deserved to be examined. And so I went to Cal, I went to a bunch of other people, sort of traced the whole history of it, and sort of just explored it, and came up with all sorts of stuff that it takes us through baseball in different eras. I'm pretty excited about it. I've got a great publisher, and I think it'll make a little bit of noise.
I think the only thing I have to compare it to is perfect attendance in elementary school, John. Showing up
Yeah.
every day, right?
Yeah, definitely. Showing up every day. It's a nice thing to do, and it's interesting in baseball, but they're not even trying to do it in baseball anymore. So the question is why, and that's what this book is about.
Pitchers and catchers reporting next week, John Eisenberg. I know what a baseball fan you are, and your boy and your family. Some thoughts about life after the Zach Britton Pine incident in Toronto. I mean, we talk about, Matt Ryan and Dan Quinn, and will they ever live this down, and Shanahan being involved in that. I think Buck, for all of his genius and all that, he's never really won. And, these teams, the story on him is the team wins after he leaves. There's still an unwritten chapter for the Orioles, and certainly the window closing on Machado, if nothing else. They spent all the money on Trumbo. They never have winning off seasons. They're going to lose an off season a couple years from now if they don't get cracking on Machado and start the bidding at $300 million, which I don't think they will. But for Buck and for his legacy, the last thing he did in a playoff game was have his closer end the season on the bench without pitch. They'll be very lucky to get back and play in that game again this year. It's going to be difficult for them to do that over the next 162 games.
Yeah, well, they had to be better. There's no question they had to be better because they snuck in with the second wild card spot and 89 wins with the closer, pulling a Justin Tucker, right?
Who was perfect, right? Perfect.
And
right.
so, if you even allow him to regress and say blow 3 or 4 games out of 50 or whatever it was, I don't have the numbers, but they don't make the playoffs. So even if he has a great season, it took a perfect season. So that's that alone. You take it out. So in other words, if you expect him to blow 3 or 4 this year, which I think any sane person should, well, then they got to make up those games somewhere else. So they have to be better. And, they certainly haven't done much except sort of bring some of the same pieces back and then tweak the outfield a little bit. So I don't know. I mean, it remains to be seen. I think they've been a winning team. I think they'll be a winning team again, a contending team. But is it good enough? To get to 95 wins or something? It's hard to see right now, but it's a long way to go. Personally, regarding the Britton thing, I think, that was. I didn't think they were going to the World Series last year anyway. That game hurt. I know it hurt Orioles fans. And, even if he'd pitched in that game, the Orioles weren't scoring any runs, and they weren't going to get that third run. It sure looked to me like they were never going to get it. So Britton might have pitched the 8th and 9th. Great. They still would have been in the 11th and wouldn't have had him. So, that was a bad move, and it sort of defines the game, I think, somewhat incorrectly because the Orioles were just not moved. One swing scored the only runs in that game, Trumbo. Otherwise, they did nothing. They really need to work on their offense going forward and make it more balanced and a little more creative and scratch some runs across, and I think that's what they're trying to do this offseason. Whether or not they've done it, we'll see.
I don't even know if that's the case. I mean, to me, it looks like it's going to be beer league softball again, that they're, sign Mark Trumbo, and commit to that, and you still don't really have a leadoff. I mean, there's all sorts of, all the holes that were there last year are there. The upside would be, is Dylan Bundy good for 32 starts and 224 innings? And is he going to be 17-8? And, is he going to be that guy, or is Gausman going to be that guy? And is Tillman going to stick around, or is he going to go back into a hole like he did 2 years ago? And where's Chris Davis going to be in all of this? I'm sold on Machado. I'm sold on Scope. I don't know about Hardy. I would think the pitching's the story here. They need someone to emerge as a top-of-the-rotation guy. If they get that, they can win 90 games.
Well, they have candidates. I mean, those young guys are good. I mean, they are good. That's, I think both of them. I kind of enjoy watching them pitch. I mean, Bundy's just getting going, and you hope he stays healthy and certainly brings a lot to the table. Gausman was really special the second half of the season. not the first half. I think, if you let him 32 games at that level, that you got something there, I think. So, it bears monitoring. I mean, those guys, they need more. They're going to need more, but they might have those pretty good top of the rotation guys. So, that part could turn out for them. But, I think they also need to be able to do something other than just hit a home run to score.
Something magic happens. Spring is in the air. It'll be opening day in no time. Right, John?
Absolutely, and I'm ready for it.
Play ball. He is John Eisenberg. You can follow his journey at @BeMoreEisenberg on Twitter, and the book is The Streak. It comes out on the 4th of July. Sounds like an American holiday. John, I'm heading down under for a couple weeks. We'll come back and have some Springsteen stories. You and I'll get after it sometime around free agency next month. Always great having you on, pal.
Well, enjoy that. See you soon.
You got it. John Eisenberg, formerly of the Baltimore Sun, currently with BaltimoreRavens.com, and writing about the reappreciation of the Ravens Super Bowl goal line stand. I think we all thought a little bit of that on Sunday night. Certainly Luke wrote about that at WNST.net as well. I'm heading down under. We'll have some rock and roll next week, some sports the week after that. You can certainly stay in touch and in communicado with me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, and Instagram. I will be tweeting from the other side of the world and the other hemisphere and the other weather pattern. It's going to be 92 and sunny where I am. I pray for all of you, including Kitty, that you don't have to bust your shovels out too bad in the coming days and weeks. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. We're out in the Buy a Toyota audio vault 24 hours a day. From anywhere in the world, you can find anything you miss here. You can listen to all of our Super Bowl work from last week. If you missed any of that, some incredible conversations in there. I mean, from Doug Flutie and a whole slew of Hall of Famers and Derek Brooks and Jerry Kramer and Marcus Allen. We had a great time last week, and looking forward to more good times ahead as we get into the Terps, the Caps, the Wizards, all very relevant. If there's any breaking news at all, you'll get it on the WNST text service first. That's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Our London road trip is ready to go at WNST.net as well. You can always email me a note about that. We'd love to get you on that as well. Our morning newspaper also shipping to your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. Keep the faith around here. I am Nestor. This is WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.